Hello, everybody. My name is Tanner Lapointe, and I am a program facilitator with the Schizophrenia Society of New Brunswick. Today, we're going to be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, often referred to as PTSD. So what exactly is PTSD? PTSD is a serious medical condition that develops after a person has experienced or witnessed a traumatic event, such as a war, or being involved in a very serious accident, or being the victim of sexual or physical violence. It is noteworthy that you do not have to directly be the victim of a traumatic event to develop PTSD. You can also be a witness as well. So, for example, it's very common for first responders, such as police personnel or members of the fire department or paramedics, to develop PTSD because of what they've witnessed. And PTSD involves feelings of intense fear, depression, and anxiety. So what are the symptoms of PTSD? So one of the most common symptoms associated with PTSD are intrusive thoughts and memories. This is often referred to as flashbacks. So this is when the individual is constantly reliving the trauma. So seeing images of maybe a war or whatever the trauma was. They're constantly having those thoughts and memories, and it's very disruptive and can be very debilitating to their day-to-day life. Then we have avoidance coping. So this is when the individual avoids situations or things that may be a trigger for them and remind them of the trauma. So for example, if the individual was involved in a very serious car accident, maybe they will refuse to drive or even refuse to even get in a car. And then we have hyperarousal. So this is when the individual essentially can't turn off their fight or flight response. So they're always ready and on edge to deal with whatever danger that they may perceive. So they're not able to turn off that fight or flight mechanism. And then feelings of anxiety and depression often come along with PTSD and insomnia. How common is PTSD? So it is estimated that approximately 76% of Canadians have experienced a traumatic event at some stage in their life. And approximately 8% of those who experience a traumatic event will develop PTSD. So it is a fairly common disorder. So what causes PTSD? So when anybody's safety is put in danger, our bodies produce a fight or flight effect. So for example, if somebody is in my face and screaming at me, threatening to kill me, one of two things is going to happen. Either my flight response will kick in and I will try to vacate that situation, or my fight response will kick in and I will be prepared to defend myself from the individual. So subsequent to the incident, we often have a great deal of anxiety and fears. So if somebody just tried to kill me, I'm going to have a great deal of anxiety and fear after that. Most individuals cope with these feelings, but in some cases, those feelings of anxiety and fears do not go away, and the fight or flight response remains present. This can lead to PTSD. PTSD can often occur from being unable to rationalize the experience. So what we mean by that is, let's say somebody broke into my house and robbed me. If I'm able to rationalize it by saying, well, this individual was maybe in desperate need of money, I'm rationalizing the experience, so I understand why the trauma has occurred. If I'm unable to rationalize the experience and understand why this happened, I'm more likely to develop PTSD. And that is why it is so important that if somebody experiences a traumatic event, they get the help they need, whether that's through seeing a psychotherapist or even just having a good family and friend support system. They need to have those systems in place. And there is some evidence that biological factors may play a role. So for example, if somebody in my family has had PTSD, it could mean that my brain may be predisposed to not deal with trauma appropriately. So how is PTSD treated? So it's often treated with psychotherapy such as cognitive behavioral therapy. So cognitive behavioral therapy works by changing the way we think and feel about ourselves. So how this can benefit PTSD is maybe if I was involved in a war and my best friend was killed in the war, I might blame myself for that. And this might lead to PTSD. So with the cognitive behavioral therapy, it might help me understand that that was not necessarily my fault. And exposure therapy. So this is when the individual is exposed in a safe environment to the trauma that they've experienced. So they're being forced to relive it, whether that's through images or videos, etc. And this will force the individual to face their trauma and develop coping mechanisms to deal with it. Medications are also often used in the treatment of PTSD. Some of the most common ones are antidepressants, such as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, such as Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac, Celexa, and Cipralex. These can help with the feelings of depression and anxiety and those negative cognitive symptoms. Benzodiazepines may also be used to help relieve anxiety and even aid in sleep and treat insomnia. In some cases, antipsychotic medications may also be used. So I would like to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video today. I hope you found it very helpful and informative. For your benefit, in the description, I have included some contact numbers if you're seeking help. Please remember, however, if you are in crisis, call 911 or proceed to your nearest emergency department as soon as possible. I have also included links to various websites if you're seeking for more information about these topics. I would also like to thank Dr. Khan again for taking the time to watch these videos and review them. It is very appreciated. Thank you, everybody. Remember, recovery is expected.